Hi vlog. Today I'm gonna talk about the topic which is quite hurtful for many people, including myself. Many of us at the moment have to change our jobs to look for something better with higher salary, or simply if you want to change the type of the job that you are doing. You're probably struggling nowadays because, as many HR specialists say nowadays, the job market has completely changed, and at times it may become a demotivating, chaotic, or really tough market to really find a job. And this is why I wanted to talk about how to find a job without really losing your mind. And I'm still learning to look at the at the camera instead of around, but still it's a process, as well as the job hunting. And there is a psychology of the job hunt which I would like to really remind myself about it, and hopefully it will be useful for you as well. So I have found myself in situations many times when I'm sending, I don't know, for example, 10 applications or 100 applications, my CVs, and then I found myself refreshing my inbox 100 times, and nothing, no news, no updates, no invitations to the interview. And it can be quite challenging to your self-esteem, I would say. It usually is, because you just think that, well, maybe your CV is not good enough, maybe you are not the right match, maybe you're applying to the wrong jobs, maybe you've started looking at pictures where people are seen to be able to find it so quickly, even though now, thank God, it became a bit more obvious and people are a bit more honest about how much time and effort did they put into job search before they found something. And I'm happy to see that, for example, in LinkedIn, many people are quite honest about the fact that they've spent ages, despite having the great education, experience and skills, they had to spend ages looking for a job, rewriting their CVs, revising what they have to offer, how they phrase it and how they present it. Well, before we look at that, I like the comparison that I recently found, that job search could be similar to travel planning, because finding a job is not just in many cases, it's not the practical problem. In many cases, it is a psychological journey. So you have to prepare yourself for this journey. And if we're comparing it with the travel itinerary and planning, we need to make sure that we are going into the right direction. So this is the sometimes another aspect of that, because it's personal journey, because sometimes job hunting, especially rejections, can be perceived as something personal. When you're employed, when you really have a job, it seems like the job is something you do, right? It's a bit easier to separate yourself, your personality, from the job. Whereas when you are searching for a job and you can't find it, we all tend to take it a bit more personally. So if we are rejecting, we are, in majority of cases, let's be honest, we do not think that, well, maybe they are just searching for somebody else, because for this particular position my skills and experience do not match that well. So basically you're comparing your job with your skills. But at the same time, when you get rejected, in majority of cases you just think that maybe I'm not good enough in general. So we make these conclusions, and which really upset us, and it doesn't help in the search, it doesn't help in finding solutions. So we are usually thinking that we are not good enough. And I encourage you to stop thinking this way, because it will not lead you to any successful progression, basically. And I want and I need to give the same advice to myself as well, because company reject people and perfectly capable capable people every single day. Those people are super capable, and we see this tendency recently, how AI can replace people, actually, right? In many cases, even super qualified, highly skilled people get laid off, and they are rejected. And no matter how many years they've worked for the company, how loyal or how high achieving they have been, I heard many stories. It's quite devastating, especially when you yourself are looking for job, and maybe you do not have this perfect self-esteem, and then you see that this seemingly talented person who has this experience, who has this knowledge, and who has had the chance in the past to work for the huge company with this great salary, if they are rejected, if they are laid off and fired, well, it demotivates you as well. But my suggestion is to really try to think clearly, because if you, let's go back to the travel plans, you need to make sure that you have your goal, so you cannot simply look around, compare different destinations, book different flights to different destinations, and then hope that one of them will really bring you to your destination, or the destination of your dream, right? You do not do that. You know usually where you want to go, right? Sometimes there are functions when we can search based on the budget, and we have this period of time, and then the airline can suggest us some destinations. It's another thing. It's not really relative to, it cannot be applied to the job search. So basically, usually we are planning our journey. We do prepare our bags. We do check the weather, right, to make sure that we are dressed properly, and we do make sure that we find the flight which will take us to this particular direction. So why then, in many cases, and this is quite a common phrase now, that I'm sending hundreds and hundreds of CVs. So maybe instead of sending hundreds and hundreds of CVs, you should really make sure that you know where you are going. That you really match your skills, experience from the past with your present, and what you can offer to the company in the future, and what you as a person want to do in the future. Maybe it's something slightly different from what you are used to do. Maybe it's not, well, maybe it is the same, but then maybe it is worth revising your CV, and instead I think it was a classical format of the resume. Instead of generating your resume in ChatGPT or with any other AI tool, just make sure that you add at least 50% of the CV is written, well, ideally 100% of the CV is written by yourself. And instead of just listing the things that you've done in the past, rephrase it into goals and results that you have achieved. And preferably, it should be quite obvious what gains did the company received as a result of this actions of yourself. So instead of saying like, I was responsible for client management, you could say, I generated a marketing campaign, for example, which increased client-based or lead generation, and as a result, we exceeded the KPI, for example, by, let's say, 40%, or something like that. First of all, it has to be a bit more precise. So if you can, use numbers and rephrase it to make sure it's not just the description of your function, but the success story, basically, achievement, which has direct relationship and direct connection to benefit that the company received as a result. And referring to your past, try to present it to the employer in the future, to this particular company, and illustrate how this skill can be useful in the future to them as well, how it is your competitive advantage over hundreds of candidates that you are revising currently, and how this particular experience, this particular skill will be useful to them as well. And you should be connecting definitely your past experience, skills with your interest as well. You should, together with all of that, you should illustrate that you are really, really interested in what you are doing, and eager. Well, in some points, you shouldn't be afraid of admitting that you are eager to reach new goals. So you know how to do that. Let's try to do it double X or 3X of the same, or even more. So you shouldn't be afraid of suggesting something new based on your current experience to the company, and draw a line between their results and profits, preferably, and your efforts. So as I told you before, we do not plan our journeys and travels based on random choices, right? We do prepare, we check the weather, we prepare our bags, we make sure that the company is right, we make sure that we have planned our visit, so we have made our research based on the destination, about the destination that we are going. And the research, and maybe really, really cheesy and said a million times, research is the key. Make research about this company, at least the industry. If you still want to bombard the particular industry with your CV, at least make sure that your CV and your knowledge is up to date with their trends, with their tendency, with their weaknesses and strengths, with their challenges that the industry is experiencing in general. And then, well, it's ideally if you will narrow it down to this particular company in where you are currently applying. And instead of using this economy of scale, instead of sending out hundreds of same CVs, I would probably recommend you to really think about what you want, where you're going to apply, what you can do for this company, and where and what interests you. It may sound really, really simple and basic. You should identify what encourages you to work for this particular company, because it will be, well, in majority of cases, if they read your CV, it will stand out. And especially if you go to the interview, if you are able to demonstrate the real interest in their particular company, meaning that you have illustrated that you know the past, you know the current processes of the company, you are aware of certain challenges that the company or the industry is experiencing now, and you can use your knowledge and tools that you have now to either fix some troubles and problems, or increase or even expand horizons for them, even if they are super successful. So just make sure that the CV is as customized to this particular company, at least the industry, as possible. Do not be afraid of illustrating that even though you have a lot to bring to the table, but still you are open to challenging yourself to reach even more for them and with them. And because, as we all know, it's sometimes much easier, much better, and companies like it more when you came with your huge baggage of knowledge and skills, but you leave this space for improvement, maybe adjustment, some modifications, because every single company is a team basically of people, and every one of us is different, and every process, the business process, can be different as well. There are rules, there are tendencies, etc., etc., but still in each and every company it can be different. So you do not try to avoid acting really rigid. Try to avoid making them feel as if they know less than you, or you will come and show them how to do, basically, because you still need to be open to what they have to offer to you as well. So it should be mutually this beneficial cooperation. So there's a thin line in the balance, a really, really careful balance that has to be maintained, because if we go back and compare it to travel plans as well, you do not come to the new company, or to a new country, to the new place, knowing that you know everything and nothing can really surprise you, and you will then show them how to live. They live there for 100 years, probably their mentality, their culture is different. So you first of all will limit yourself when you think that you know better than this new town. You will not. Some people really, it depends. Some people have this attitude when they travel, as if they don't need to know nothing new. So they are not interested in finding something out or exploring something new. They just feel that they know everything so far. So nothing can surprise them, basically. And to my point of view, it's limiting them, really limiting them a lot. So they're just spending their time without really enriching their experience and themselves as a personality, basically, without admitting and without accepting that this culture or this new place has something additional to what they have already knew, and something interesting, something worthy spending their time. So if you come to the new country, to the new place with this attitude, well, first of all, you will limit yourself, and then probably you will not find people who would be of interest to you as well, and for whom you will be of interest, right? Because you will be really, really rigid. The same thing is with the company. If you come to the company as if you knew better than them, and no matter how skillful you are, no matter how experienced you are, please let the space for the company, for the team, for the HR, even during the first interview. Leave this space for the company to at least say something, during the interview, to say something about themselves. And please do not interrupt during the interview. That's a no-no. But do not come across as a person who is not interested in what they are, where they are moving, what are their strengths and weaknesses. Some people do that, and some people come to the interview and they think it will really win the company over, something, their confidence. But sometimes the confidence and arrogance are two different things, and one can lead you to the next stage of the recruitment, whereas the other can really limit the choices for you, not for the company. So please make sure that first of all, you don't take it really personally. Just analyze it and approach it as a really rational, logical process of preparation for the journey, the real travel and journey of your life in this time, journey of your career, journey to some new horizons, journey to know new people, to really develop your existing skills, to find out a lot about other people, about current situation on the market, about yourself as well. Because especially if we're talking about changing the industry, if you want to try something new, nowadays it's really the current and relevant, because especially in the IT sector, or within even YouTube blogging, tendencies are changing really rapidly, and the person has to be adjustable. And it may be the case that your interest, internal interest, or the necessity to keep up with the market, with the environment, will lead you to the place where you will realize that you need to re-educate yourself, to get new knowledge. Do not be scared. Do not think that this situation is something that will really diminish you or minimize you as an expert in other field. No, you're just adding to what you already have. Why not? You're just training your brain. First of all, learning something new is always good because you train your brain, and it will not take your past skills, your past experience from you. No, it will help you add on to that. And especially at that time when you're trying to switch roles or enter some new industry or role, job role, you need to be aware of the fact that, first of all, requirements, the set of requirements that you have for the employer has to be revised, right? Starting from the very, very straightforward thing, from the salary, financial side of things. Because especially if it's completely new sphere, you need to make sure that you get experience. No matter how much time you've spent learning something online or offline, it needs to be applied. And the chance to apply the knowledge and to get this real life experience, it's really valuable. So even if the salary is not that high, in exchange, you're getting this invaluable experience. And maybe do not ask for the skyrocketing salaries from the first moment when you're just sending out the CVs to this new role. Maybe express your eagerness to sacrifice a bit on the financial side of things, but get this unique for in this period of time when you're just beginning in this new sphere. For you, it's a unique experience because exchange of information, being in this environment, will teach you more than any other theoretical course will. First of all, and second, especially in this new field, you need to make a list of things and requirements that at this moment of time, the period of time, the industry or this particular company has in your current strong sides and weak or the absence of skills. So a list of those requirements, and the opposite, please be honest with yourself whether you have something to offer or no, and you will see where are gaps, and those gaps can be filled in only with experience, only with the practical experience. You will never fill the gaps usually just by saying that I read this book, so I know everything about it. I read this article, or I watched the YouTube video about that, so I know. No, yeah, it's something that doesn't need to be said, but still you need to analyze honestly that even in exchange for the low salary that you may need to accept during at least first year, you are getting the experience and without it, there is no way you will continue further. There is no way you'll have a chance to get more in terms of salary, because you need to, in return to the salary, you need to bring something to the table. And if it's a new sphere for you, industry for you, chances that you have the equal balance between high salary and your current skills, well, there will not be a balance, right? So just make this approach really structured and honest. The main thing as well here is to be honest with yourself, not taking everything personally, but be honest with yourself. And yes, just consider it a journey, consider it a work, consider it like a part of your life, not yourself as a personality. So if there's silence from recruiters, from companies, it definitely needs revising. Your CV, your approach, maybe even the job role which you used to have before and you want to continue with this job role. Maybe there's something additional that needs to be considered as well. Maybe as well, going back to the rigid phrase, maybe you need to be a bit more flexible in terms of what you learn, and meanwhile you are sending and waiting for the reply, it's definitely worth studying something new, preferably related to the industry that you are applying or in which you are interested in. And then now we need to, at least going back to the travel plans, we need to talk about the budget a bit more. So as well as, for example, if we have a certain amount of money, we can only dream of something really expensive, right? We can make a goal, but if we're traveling in the nearest future, we have to make sure that the budget for the travel do not exceed our current budget for life. It's the same with the job hunt. Just make sure that your time is not wasted without any result, basically the time of your life. Make sure that you do not leave to find the job. Make sure that you keep trying to find a job to leave. So if you spend all of your time, all of your psychological energy, maybe searching, sending, and not receiving any reply or any positive reply, you may find yourself in a position where you burn out, basically, and are exhausted quickly. So make sure that you still are distracted by friends, by events. If you're an introvert, please make sure that you switch activities, like maybe apply for the job and then read an interesting book, and then just change your activity for the brain to switch to different activities, and then have a rest at least. So by having a rest, and I'm sure that many of us know, I do not mean just lay down on the sofa and do nothing. Our brain considers a rest when you simply switch activities. For example, you were sitting in front of the computer sending or revising your CV for like 3 hours, for example. It will lead at some point to this feeling of exhaustion, right? And then it's just a mental exhaustion. Just make sure that you have it structured. Maybe create a plan for your day, and then switch it and I don't know, prepare some meal that you really like and enjoy. It has not, well, just take some pressure of this process, and then, or read a book, or maybe watch something interesting. Just make sure that you do not concentrate and spend all of your time and on all your energy to the job search, because at some point you may be invited to the interview, but if you come, no matter how skillful, no matter how hard you tried before and to find a job, if you come to this interview stressed, with this pressure on your shoulders, maybe not having the right rest, which will definitely be seen, and it will not help you get the second stage of the interview, right? Get to the second stage of the interview. So please make sure that you do not forget to leave. Meanwhile, you are searching for a job. So guys, and it's really, really important, we cannot return today, we cannot repeat it. So make sure that your time is spent wisely. And if we're talking about the job, make sure that you are keeping up with these current tendencies, because everything is changing. The job market, industries, goals, and values actually. So make sure that you do not lose your peace. My previous video was actually dedicated to protecting your peace by trying to control something that you cannot control. If you lose the peace, no matter how much time you spend looking for a job or even working, without the peace, basically the time just passes by and you're not living it. So please make sure that you comment with your experience, maybe your goals, or maybe questions or thoughts, and protect the peace, and good luck in your job search if you're searching.